This is a little video about Monsanto. What a bunch of fucking wankers they are. Anyway, they created a thing called aspartame, which is in a lot of diet drinks. You've probably heard about it. It's an alternative to things like saccharin. And it's cheaper to put in these drinks than sugar. So, basically, the reason they use it is A, because it's a poison which is going to kill off mass parts of the population, and the head of Monsanto was, after all, a Bilderberger, so no conspiracies there. Anyway, how did they get aspartame in? Well, let's just say first that, after all these years, Monsanto have actually sold the rights to aspartame. They don't actually hold it any longer. It's now owned by Pfizer. But prior to doing that, I understand that they sold aspartame for a very small amount so that it would be with a company, a smaller company, that could take any lawsuits and just fold up if people started actually suing them. Now, does that sound like the actions of an honest company with nothing to hide? Does it really? Yeah, I don't think so. Anyway, so how did they get it introduced? Well, in the 80s, well, 60s to 80s, it failed the FDA tests, so they couldn't get it in. So it was clearly shown that it caused cancer and many other illnesses. So they just made sure that the head of the FDA was changed and replaced with their man who was previously, I believe, working for Coke. Now, all of this was headed up by Donald Rumsfeld. Donald Rumsfeld? You know, the guy that took people into Iraq? You know, the CEO of Halliburton? Yeah, right. That fucking scum-sucking fucking cunt. He was behind aspartame getting in. So, strangely, once the head of the FDA had been changed and it had been pushed through by, initially the votes had gone the other way, so they basically added some more people in, and then they pushed the vote so that they could get this stuff through. They then made an executive order that said that the details of the FDA test couldn't be released, but thankfully it did. Anyway, that was because of Canada. You don't see much of this online now because Canada has actually changed its opinion about aspartame. It now says that aspartame is safe, but it isn't safe, no. Canada said they wanted to see the reports on the FDA cancer trials, and they said that they weren't going to make it available to Canada until they saw these reports. When they saw them and they saw that it was cancerous and caused other illnesses, I think there's about 90 that are on the cards, basically, that aspartame causes, 90 symptoms, which can include things all the way up to death. Yeah. So they showed this report to the public, which they weren't supposed to do. George Bush had said to them that they could see the report as long as they didn't show the public. Okay, Canada then agreed, and then they showed the public the reports. So, not many people in Canada really wanted to use aspartame. Now, for some other reasons that we don't quite know, Canada has changed its position. It now says that because 90 other countries basically use aspartame, that it's now safe to use, and that there's no problem with it. So, that's a bit fucking weird, isn't it? Based on the fact that the FDA had approved it, the UK approved it. They said, well, the FDA have done their tests, so now we can just let it through. And since then, there's been a lot of lobbying and a lot of payments made in order to get this to be stuck in certain countries. And then what happens is, countries like Canada say, well, all the other countries are kind of allowing it, so therefore we must allow it too, because 90 other countries are accepting it. Here's some information I took from rents.com, which gives you the timeline of just exactly how this stuff got fucked through the system and brought in. In 1985, Monsanto purchased GD Searle, the chemical company that held the patent to aspartame, the active ingredient in NutraSweet. Monsanto was apparently untroubled by aspartame's clouded past, including the 1980 FDA Board of Inquiry, which comprised of 3 scientists which confirmed that it may induce brain tumors. So, the FDA had actually banned aspartame based on this finding, only to have Searle chairman Donald Rumsfeld, currently the Secretary of State for Defense, well he was, this is an old report, to call in his markers to get it approved. On January the 21st, 1981, a day after Ronald Reagan's inauguration, Searle reapplied to the FDA for approval to use aspartame in food sweetener, and Reagan's new FDA commissioner, Arthur Hayes Hull Jr., appointed a 5-person scientific commission to review the Board of Inquiry's decision. It soon became clear that the panel would uphold the ban by 3-2 decision, but Hull installed a 6th member on the commission, and the vote became deadlocked. He then personally broke up the tie with himself and voted in favor of aspartame. Hull later left the FDA under allegations of impropriety and served briefly as a provost in the New York Medical College, and then, strangely enough, went and took a position with Burstyn Marsteller, the chief public relations firm for Monsanto and GD Searle. Since then, he has never spoken publicly about aspartame. Yeah.
Wiki has this to say about aspartame. Aspartame has been found safe for human consumption by more than 90 countries worldwide. Hang on a second. This is Wiki. Aspartame has been found safe for human consumption by more than 30 countries worldwide, with FDA officials describing aspartame as one of the most thoroughly tested and studied food additives the agency has ever approved. And its safety is, quote, clear-cut, but there have been several controversies and hoaxes and health scares. Yes, by conspiracy people that have no basis to say what they say because they are all lunatics. That's in brackets, that's me putting that in, but you know that you can't trust anything on fucking Wiki because it is owned by the fucking corporations that will keep changing the information, and they can hire people by the fucking hundreds to keep changing this Wiki information so that it will never, ever be accurate. Okay. We continue on with Wiki. Initially, aspartame was approved by the US Food and Drug Administration in 1974. However, problems with Searle's safety testing program, including the testing of aspartame, were discovered subsequently. The approval was rescinded the following year, but outside reviews of the problematic tests and additional testing, final approval was granted in 1981. Hey, just don't tell everybody that it was because of Donald Rumsfeld and because we changed the head of the FDA. Okay, don't put that on Wiki. The US Government Accountability Office reviewed the actions of involved officials in 1986. And the approval process in 1987, neither the allegations of conflict nor problems of financial approval process were substantiated. The widely circulated email hoax cited aspartame as the cause of numerous diseases. The Center for Disease Control investigated and was unable to find any significant epidemiological associations to risk or harm. That's like the old 911 not being able to find any thermite being used in the bringing down of some certain buildings in New York. Well. You don't really think that these government departments would lie to us, do you? Really? They wouldn't do that. No. The weight of existing scientific evidence indicates that aspartame is safe at current levels of consumption as a non-nutritive sweetener. Reviews conducted by regulatory agencies decades after aspartame was first approved have supported its continued availability.
So, well, British Columbia recently banned the use of aspartame in all schools. So all artificial sweeteners, including aspartame, they just don't want them. And there's lots of places following suit, because at the end of the day, when you've got a substance which is showing up as giving cancer, and it's being used as a sweetener, you could just use sugar. And sugar doesn't give cancer. It just makes you fat. It just rots your teeth. But it doesn't give you cancer. You know, those things aren't really going to necessarily kill you if done in moderation. But aspartame will give you a lot of diseases. So, common names for the poison called aspartame are aspartame, sucralose, Splenda, asulfam K, asulfam potassium, NutraSweet, as well as saccharin. Well, that's they're the artificial sweeteners. That's not necessarily the names for aspartame. Aspartame is asulfame K and aspartame. Right, it's composed of L-aspartyl L-phenylalanine methyl ester. They can be found in beverages such as breath mints, chewing gum, prescription drugs, supplements and vitamins, and various other health food products. The US Department of Health and Human Services symptoms attributed to aspartame include headaches, the highest complaint, followed by dizziness. So I know for a fact, right, if anybody tells you that this aspartame doesn't cause problems, I will tell you myself. I used to get the shakes if I would take aspartame. Any drink with aspartame in it, I would start shaking. I wouldn't be able to control the shakes. So anyone that says that aspartame does not cause physical side effects is a fucking liar, because I know this myself. Lists of studies which have been found but problems have been ignored. Okay, the FDA banned aspartame based on the findings, only to have Donald Rumsfeld calling his markers to get it approved. The deadly, this is from Huffington Post, by the way, the deadly artificial sweetener NutraSweet is produced by feeding fossil fuel oil to E. coli bacteria that are genetically modified, which then defecate the aspartame as feces. Nice. Really fancying it now, aren't you? So, Dr. John Olney, who founded the field of neuroscience called excitotoxicity, attempted to stop approval of aspartame with attorney James Turner back in 1996. The FDA's own toxicologist, Dr. Adrian Gross, told Congress that without a shadow of a doubt, aspartame can cause brain tumors and brain cancer. This breaks a thing called the Delaney Amendment, which forbids putting anything in food that's known to cause cancer. According to the top doctors and researchers on this issue, aspartame causes headache, memory loss, seizures, vision loss, coma, and cancer, and it worsens or mimics the symptoms of such diseases such as fibromyalgia, MS, lupus, ADD, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and chronic fatigue and depression. Further dangers highlighted is that aspartame liberates free methyl alcohol. The resulting chronic methanol poisoning effects have an effect on the brain, causing addiction. Methanol, or wood alcohol as it's sometimes known, constitutes 1/3 of the aspartame molecule, and it is classified as a severe metabolic poison and narcotic. And that's how Diet Coke is treating you now. In the peer-reviewed journal Aspartame, Methanol and the Public Health, Dr. Woodrow Monte wrote, when diet sodas and soft drinks sweetened with aspartame are used to replace fluid loss during exercise and physical exertion in hot climates, the intake of methanol can exceed 250 milligrams per day, or 32 times the Environmental Protection Agency's recommended limit for consumption of this cumulative poison. The effects of aspartame are documented by the FDA's own data, and in 1995 the agency was forced under the Freedom of Information Act to release a list of aspartame symptoms reported by thousands of victims. From 10,000 consumer complaints, the FDA compiled a list of 92 key symptoms, including death. Dr. Betty Martini, the founder of Mission Possible International, works with doctors around the world in an effort to remove aspartame from food, drinks, and medicine. According to Dr. Martini, aspartame has brought more complaints to the FDA than any other additive and is responsible for 75% of complaints to that agency. More recently, the EPA found aspartame to be a potentially dangerous chemical along with BPA, which no doubt you've heard a lot about in the news lately. Aspartame, not so much. Martini says NutraSweet is a deadly neurotoxic drug masquerading as an addictive. It interacts with all antidepressants, L-Dopa, Coumadin, hormones, insulin, all cardiac medication, and many others. It is also a chemical hypersensitization drug, so that it interacts with vaccines, other toxins, other unsafe sweeteners like Splenda, which has a chlorinated base like DDT, and can cause immune disease. It has a synergistic and addictive effect with monosodium glutamate, both being excitotoxins, the aspartic acid in aspartame, and MSG, the glutamate. People were found were using aspartamase as the placebo for MSG studies, even before it was approved. So hey, folks, if they know MSG is causing the same sort of effects and they use it as a placebo to test for aspartame, how do you think the results are going to come out? The FDA has known this for a quarter of a century, and nothing has been done through the law. That's because they're fucking owned. So, folks, you don't really want to be using this aspartame. Take it from me, right? I get the shakes when I use this. I mean, you just look at my eyebrows. You know, look what happens to my eyes when I stop drinking this shit. Yeah, it's not good for you. Yeah. So I would say what you need to do is either use no sweeteners or sugar, because we've been using this for thousands and thousands of years, and a sweetener called fructose, which is in fruit. Fructose is a sweetener that doesn't even rot your teeth. So if they put this into sweets, they wouldn't rot your teeth. You don't need to put sweeteners in there to do this, because fructose does not damage your teeth. You can eat apples, bananas, pears. You can eat all those fruits all day long because your body is designed to take them. It takes fructose. It's not so good with other types of sugar, but our body is designed to take sugar in. It's not designed to take aspartame. So give it a rest, do yourself a favor, and have a look at some of the links that I'm going to put down below. Oh, have a look at the little links, and you can click on them, and then they will tell you a little bit more about the aspartame problem and give you some more information. So click those links down below. Thanks.